Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Serdula. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm the founder of Vision Board Media, where we specialize in helping professionals, executives, and entrepreneurs brand themselves so they collide with their desired career opportunities. Today, I'm excited to present Behind the Hiring Curtain, Demystifying the Applicant Tracking System. Joining me is Eddie Stewart. He's the founder of ES Talent Solutions. I met Eddie a few months ago at a holiday party, and I was immediately impressed by his deep expertise in ATS. With over 25 years dedicated to enhancing recruiting functions, Eddie specializes in implementing and optimizing applicant tracking systems for growth-oriented companies. His experience includes pivotal roles recruiting at Radius Health and leading multiple talent acquisition teams at Johnson & Johnson. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the recruiting process, showing you exactly how recruiters use ATS systems. We'll also be answering your questions, so please feel free to add them to the chat and stick around until the end. For those who do, I will be providing my personal branding assessment report, which normally sells for $50. I'm going to give it to you for absolutely free. Eddie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm happy that you're here. I'm going to ask for those who are here, I'd love for you to just say something in the chat, just so we know that you're here. Absolutely, just click and let us know that you're here. And we're going to be answering any questions that you do have today. So Eddie, you know what we wanted to do is really kind of, like I said before, just open up that curtain. You know, there's so many job seekers out there, and so many are really struggling, and they find that they're putting in their resumes to these job boards, to these openings, and they're just not getting any traction. It's oftentimes just crickets, and a lot of people are saying it's the ATS system. It's filtering, it's filtering us. It's filtering my resume. And there's just a lot of questions, and there's a lot of just shadows over this process. So I'm so happy you're here to really show us what's going on. You have prepared a presentation. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll pull up that presentation. And I already see that there's a bunch of people here who are saying hello. We have Jeffrey Ullman, who I love. He's out there in sunny Boca Raton. Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us. I see Mark, I see Patricia, I see Terry, Saul, Marla, Ahmed. I was just talking to Ahmed. He's amazing. So lots of great people here. Eddie, with that said, and Audra Hammer Ross is here. Fabulous, scary ATS. We are going to show you guys what you need to know, what happens behind the scenes, and how you can prepare yourself. Eddie, over to you.
Yeah, great. So as Donna mentioned, I have many, many years of experience recruiting in corporate environments. So when what I want to show you today is when you push that button to apply, what's happening on the other side. What is the corporate recruiter thinking? How are they acting? And of course, is there a way to get around it? I think I've heard often that the system knocked me out, and we're going to show you the system today. Yeah. We have an applicant tracking system, and I've taken a few screenshots to show you what's going on.
And so, Eddie, let's talk first about what is ATS. I think that a lot of people think of ATS as being a filtration system, like a funnel. And, we throw all of these resumes in there, and it just spits out a few of them. And there is truth to that, but ATS expands. It's far more than just that piece. And so I would love for you to give us first a brief understanding of what is ATS, and also just give us a broad understanding of how recruiters might utilize it as well.
Yeah, great. So ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, and it is what it says. It tracks applicants. All companies have a recruiting process. And basically, applicant tracking systems are set up to mirror the recruiting process. For regulated industries or companies that work with the government, you have to have an applicant tracking system. Well, you have to report on everyone that's applied for jobs, what their how they were dispositioned or if they were hired. And so the applicant tracking system does that. And we'll see this in a minute. You'll see that how you move candidates through the process and how that ATS documents that. The ATS system can be standalone. They're standalone vendors. And then companies that make ERP systems and HRIS systems also have ATS, like Workday or ADP, Oracle. There's several of those big companies. But really, it's the system is just a way to document and keep track of candidates. Modern ATSs also have modules that can help them find people on the internet or advertise to different sites, do the onboarding process. But basically, the recruiting process starts by finding people, and then onboarding, first day of work, you leave the ATS.
All right. So you have a presentation where you're going to walk us through. I think my first question to you, as we're looking at this, who's I mean, this ATS is used by companies to manage their recruiting process, their job hiring process. Is there a level of individual that might be more affected than others, or is this across the board? Everyone gets themselves in there, even at the C-suite level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in theory, companies want every position to be in the ATS because they want to be able to track every position. But I think the higher level, the higher that you move up the organization, the less likely the ATS could be used. Some companies have separate systems that are not accessed by the whole company. So you don't want maybe a president's salary and personal information being able to be viewed by the whole recruiting team. So in those situations, some companies decide not to use the ATS for those positions, or they create an environment that's limited access.
Got it. So let's take a look at the first slide.
Okay. Come on. There we go. All right. So what, again, you have an applicant tracking system, and most companies have one. So there's ATSs that are very cheap, a few $100s a year, to multiple thousands a year. So most companies have something to track, and when you get to a certain size, you probably have an ATS. This the recruiter comes in, and this pops up. Their home screen has the ATS. This is what we interact with all day long. Now, what you're looking at here, in particular, a particular job, it's called Test Job 1, and the requisition has been created by the recruiter and posted. You can use the ATS to post it in a lot of different places, pay sites, not aggregator sites like LinkedIn or Indeed. But I've posted this job, and you can see so far there's 22 candidates that have applied, have made it to the system somehow. Some of those might be come from a recruiting agency. Some might be people that I found a network with, and I put them in as a recruiter. I put them in there myself. But these 22 people have made it to the system. You can see some 4 of them did not complete the application totally. So I may look at those people and say, hey, there's a good one in there. I'm going to chase them down and get the rest of their information. But you see there's 14 people that have come through external portal, and that typically is a company's career site or LinkedIn you may click on a job on LinkedIn and it takes you to the company website so you can apply.
So at this point, it's aggregating all of these different views. So it's the recruiter found people, he put them in. People were at the company website, they saw the job posting, they applied. Someone was on LinkedIn, they saw that job posting. They clicked it. They maybe they did an easy apply, or they were then transported to the company website and they've put in their information. And so here exists everything that came in.
Yeah, good. You can, many ATS where you see external portal here, there can be other buckets. So the ATS automatically categorizes. Like, let's say you have a internal employee applied, then there could be a bucket that has just the internal people, or you can have a bucket that has everyone that came from a certain site, like LinkedIn. Here we have whoever applied all gets tossed into this new submissions. That's the starting point for the ATS.
And then what happens? How does that recruiter, whoever it is that's looking at this, how do they start to say, okay, this person doesn't belong here. This person doesn't have the right qualifications, or this is the actual pool of people that we're going to be working with?
Yeah. So there's there can be automated processes. There can be manual, but now you're starting to talk about reviewing resumes and screening somehow. The one thing that can happen, and especially with high volume requisitions, when you have a lot of people apply, you can create screening questions. So if you've ever applied for a job and you've answered job specific questions like, do you have at least 5 years of experience using, ABC software? Not questions. There are some screening questions that are kind of global based, like, are you authorized to work in the United States? Will you now or in the future ever need sponsorship? But if there's job specific questions, those are screening questions that if you answer them the wrong way, then there might be another little bucket here right beside new submissions that says disposition. So if you don't meet the minimum requirements on those, you get moved to a bucket that says you're out. Now, there are questions that can be, nice to have. So you have required questions and then the nice to have questions. And in those examples, if there's 10 nice to haves and you've met all of the minimum requirements and you've gotten 10 out of 10 of the nice to have questions as well, then you may be separated. So I can, in my ATS, I can rank those that have the most nice to have questions. I can see them first. And then there's automated tools that companies may set up to look for keywords and things like that and separate resumes that way.
Is that part of the ATS, or is that external that they then use outside of the ATS?
Yeah, I mean, both. I think we're in a pretty interesting time now where AI is being experimented with. So there's a lot of tools, external AI tools that people use, but those, if they're not in these more sophisticated ATS anyway, if they're not in there, they will be. There's also ways this particular ATS that you're looking at here created a bot that when you create the requisition, it automatically scans the database, any person that has ever applied for a job ever at this company, and has a list of people. These people are fit, then they're already in your database. So there might be other buckets here and ways for people to like enter this rec, and there may be some ways to screen people out so that your 100 applicants get down to a more manageable number. Yeah. But today, at some point, a recruiter is going to be looking at resumes.
Yeah.
So some people that say the system kicked me out, that's possible. But right now in today's environment, it's more probable that a recruiter looked at the resume, looked for some keywords quickly, 30 seconds or less, and then moved you into one of two buckets. Either you're going forward or you're out.
Yeah. And let's go to the next screen, because I'm curious what happens when you click on one of those items there.
Yeah, so I have my list of names. Those of those 22 people, I think we were down to like 12 or 15 or 16 or so that are there waiting. If there were screening questions, they made it through the screening questions, and now they're being considered.
Right.
I can look at each one. So you see on the screen, I've clicked on one of those people. It's popped up their resume.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me, but as a corporate recruiter, I'm scanning through here looking for what companies did they work for? Are those attractive companies for this position? What titles did they have? Education, if it's a requirement, and keywords, the hard skills, like the yes or no questions. When you look at a job description in the qualifications, degree, yes or no.
Yeah.
10 years, yes or no. Have you used this software system? Yes or no. Those hard skills, I'm looking for those.
Right.
And then making a decision. So this, you see here circled, I can choose this person, reject or advance.
Right.
And I can do that pretty quickly. Like, good recruiters, they can go through a lot of resumes in an hour.
Yeah. One of the things that we used to hear a lot, and I still hear it from time to time, and that is someone reaching out to a job seeker and saying, your resume wasn't compatible with our ATS. You're going to have to go to a website and pay some money to make it compatible. What do you think, or what do you feel about that? Is there any possibility that a resume cannot be parsed or uploaded to an ATS?
Yes, there is a possibility. It's becoming less likely, but I think what the standard should be to have a resume that looks like all the other resumes. Like if you see just the little piece of resume on the screen here, when people start adding colors and flowers and lines and all this stuff, it gets a little confusing. And I say, if you can have that kind of resume to hand to someone because it's visually nice, but when you add too many of those things, there's a chance that the parsing won't work right, or there'll be other issues in finding information. But if you have a standard type resume, you should be fine.
Does it matter if it's a PDF or a Word doc?
Not anymore. Yeah.
It doesn't matter anymore.
No. Okay. No, those are the two standard acceptable ones. I wouldn't, get too crazy away from a Word document or a PDF. I do want to address one of the comments that says, I hear that many of the ATS systems are being used for marketing purposes. There's not really a job there, but they are posting a position anyway. Yeah. I would say that does happen, but probably not as frequently as you think. So there's some positions called evergreen recs that recruiters use. Like, for example, I have a call center, and I'm hiring, dozens of people a month in my call center. I create a requisition and just leave it up all year round and let people apply. Those are called evergreen. They're always open. So you'll see some of those that are really just kind of collecting names for whenever the company needs them. You'll also see, and I've worked for a company that posted all of their positions on their website, but almost half of the positions they filled internally. So you've applied to a position and you don't hear anything, and it may be because the recruiter never looked at the external candidates. So the way around that is, I said, find networking advocates, find find someone at the company that can say, I would not waste your time with that because there's 4 internal applicants and one of them's probably going to get the job. I haven't personally heard, I mean, I've heard of companies that post for marketing purposes, but I've never worked for or seen like, posting a job for just for marketing purposes. So I'm sure it happens. But.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with what I've been seeing isn't so much that they're doing it for marketing purposes, but they're doing it because there's thoughts out there that if you have an opening, you've got to put it out there, even if you're going to be sourcing internally. I think there's also a lot of recruiters who may post a position and then just they just don't take it down until LinkedIn cancels it after 3 months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are a lot of openings out there or that look like openings that really aren't. That is an issue, but I don't think they're necessarily doing it for marketing reasons.
I mean, I've heard, I've never seen, but I've heard companies, they don't want to make it look like they're downsizing, so they post some positions, right? So it looks like they're hiring, but I've never seen that myself, but I've heard of that.
Now, actually, it was Saul who said recruiter recently recommended he add a brief description of each company that he's worked for on his resume. So in that situation, I would say this: if you worked at companies that are small that people don't just immediately would know of, I don't think that's a bad idea. I wouldn't put a huge paragraph, but I would definitely maybe have, their yearly revenue, what industry it's in and, what it is that they're selling. I think that's a great idea because some recruiters may not know them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have that on my resume. The font's smaller, right? If you're concerned about space, but I put it on there because I work for some pretty big companies, and when I work there, it's like a snapshot. Like, for example, when I worked there, the company was, $30 billion and, 50,000 employees. And now they're, $100 billion and 200,000 employees. Like, it's a different type of company. So I did it just to kind of, put a little backdrop of what the company looked like when I was there. But I agree with you. I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
Yeah. Even if you work at a huge company like Amazon, I don't think it's bad to say I work in their, the AWS piece of it, or I work on their, their Prime Video, piece. Like you can even, because some of these companies are ginormous, and it would be helpful to really, zero in on exactly where you fit there.
Yeah. I work for the $30 million division that focuses on consulting services or something.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So we're looking, we see this resume. It's just a view of the resume. It's not like, it's rebuilding it or anything like that, or forcing it into a database. It's really keeping it as it is. It's just looking at the words itself. And for most of right now, recruiters are looking and they're the ones going, yeah, yes or no, yes or no. So if you are finding that your resume is constantly being rejected, it might be time to really sit down with someone and look at the resume and see, is it really spotlighting who you are? Is it really showcasing, the best of what you're doing? I also think, is there the right fit, right? I mean, and one of the things, Eddie, well, maybe we'll do this a little bit later, but you had shown me when we were talking how when we look at a job posting, the area that a job seeker should be really concentrating on, and potentially even taking that resume and customizing it for that position.
Yeah. I mean, recruiters make mistakes, right? You're looking through things fast, you may miss things, but I can tell you, and over 20 years of looking at resumes, the most common way people are missed is because they're not a fit for the job. And you're looking, as a candidate or applicant, you're looking at like these 9 of 10 things. I have 9 of them, but that last one might be really important, and it may be just enough to to knock you out, or more commonly, move you down the list, right? So I think I told you this earlier too. Recruiters aren't going to send 40 resumes to a hiring manager.
Right.
I want to send a few, get feedback on those few. If let's say 3 or 4 start moving through the process, I don't want to pass another 10 along and just muddle things up. Now, if I come across a really strong candidate that has all of the nice to haves and everything, then I may introduce them. But for the most part, recruiters, if you're getting all these people applying, recruiters aren't going to just send endless amounts of resumes to the hiring manager, because it slows down the process and makes things harder.
Yeah. Jeffrey just sent us a question. I think it's a really good one. And again, Eddie, you've been a recruiter, but right now, I mean, you're helping companies bring in and implement ATS. So you're sitting at a really interesting place, right? You know how it works, but you're also working with companies to bring this in and make it fit within their organization. And the one thing that you've said is, yes, AI can be used, but for the vast majority of them, there's still a lot of, it's not so much AI as much as it's the human eye.
Yeah, I'm sure that will change, because what I've seen, there's a lot of tools, AI tools from different vendors that do different things. Like one cool thing I saw is you do a video interview with me, and there's an AI tool that can snippet the questions that you answered. And so, like, there might be one really important requirement. You've answered that question, and I could just take that snippet and send it to the hiring manager and say, hey, this is how Donnie answered that question. Nifty. And then there's a lot of different tools that do a lot of different things to help screen resumes and things like that. But there's not one overarching recruiting AI tool that does it all. And so that's where, recruiters are experimenting with different things. But there's still a lot of eyes looking at resumes. Yeah. And I think that that's going to change. But today it's more experiment, try things out. This works for me, I'll use this, but it's in pockets.
Yeah. Let's go to the next screen. Oh, actually, we have another question here on resume length. I will answer this really quickly. Yeah, I think that the first page of your resume has to be great. It's got to catch the recruiter's eye. It's got to really showcase what makes you a perfect fit for that role that you're applying for. But I will say, to say that resume needs to only be one page, I think that's silly, especially if you've had 30 years of experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with adding a second page. I don't even think there's anything wrong with adding a third page. I don't think you should assume that it's always going to be read. But as long as that first page, really, really showcases who you are, the value you bring, and aligns to that role, that's important. And adding a second page is absolutely fine. I don't think you should be trying to limit it to just one page. Do you agree with me? And you can totally not agree, but that's my viewpoint.
I agree. And plus, again, the old days when you were printing them out, and you didn't want 2 lines on the third page, or like, all those rules don't really apply anymore. There's not really a lot of printing of resumes. It's but to your point, I guess there's important parts of the resume that you have to get right.
Yeah.
And then there's other parts that, I'm going to look at. If I've looked at the first part and you've got my attention, then I'll go look at the other stuff.
Yeah.
I did want to address, Jeffrey had another part to his question around, from an applicant's perspective, can you own it? Just it just pulled down, so I can't see it. But basically, as a candidate, what can I do to, like, is there any AI tools I can use? Yeah. So not to plug my website, but several weeks ago, I wrote a blog post about AI tools for job seekers. So if you do go to the website, estalentsolutions.com, and look through the blogs, there's something that can address that. There's tools popping up all the time too. So like AI moves in days and weeks, not like months and years. So, you might even Google or run some kind of search on AI tools every now and then just to see if anything new's popped up.
Now we have another one who said that he's heard crickets for months. He's tailored his resume. He uses ChatGPT and JobScan, and he says he's had 2 interviews with more than 50 resumes out there. And I'm going to have to bring Jeffrey Ullman back to this. I wish I could pull you on stage here, Jeffrey. Jeffrey has, and definitely visit if you can find him in the comments. Click on his profile. He has a beautiful presentation in which he talks about this specifically. And this is we've got to change our thinking about the job search process. Years ago, yeah, you could put out 5 resumes and you might hear 1 or 2 responses. It's different now. It is a 2 to 5% return. That's what you're going to hear. You will put out 100 resumes, and if you hear anywhere between 2 to 5, you're doing good. You're doing good. 100 resumes out, and if you've gotten 2 to 5, responses, I mean, you're doing great. So when you said you've had 2 interviews from more than 50 resumes, you're actually hitting it. You're doing not too bad, which I know we don't want to hear. And we don't want this to be the norm, but it is the norm right now, unfortunately. Eddie?
Yeah. And this is what I tell people. So number one, you have to play by whatever rules the company set, right? And I'm not proud of recruiters that don't get back with any, if there's 100 people apply, I believe that 100 people should get some kind of notification. But you kind of have to play by the rules of the company, but at the same time, do it in a way where, you can get information. So I use the term networking advocate. I think that if you're a job seeker, you should talk to people.
Yeah.
You have to talk to people. If you apply for a job, find someone at the company to talk to. And it can be the recruiter, try to connect with the hiring manager if you can figure out who that is. But you should talk to someone. And that way you'll know, if you've applied to 50 and 30 are going to get filled internally and you can take that off your plate, then, at least you know what ones to focus on.
Yeah.
And,
and I think we often think of LinkedIn as a networking tool or just as a social networking tool where you go and you look at you have a good profile, you scroll through the home feed, you message some people, but we don't always think of it as a business intelligence tool, which it is. And so just going from that job, looking at the company, clicking on the company page, right? Getting to the company page, clicking on the people tab, and then going in there and typing in, oh, I'm applying to HR. Let me look at who's on the HR team. Suddenly you're going to see a list of everyone in HR. Now you can start to see, is there anyone that I'm a first degree connection with? Who am I a second degree connection with? Right? If you're a second degree connection, you can see who connects you, who's that mutual connection, and you can ask for an introduction to that person. Right? You could also, if you're paying for LinkedIn, you've got the open profile. But if you're not paying for LinkedIn, look to see who is paying for LinkedIn, who's in the HR role of that company. If they have a gold icon next to their name, that means that you can actually go in there and message them for free. You're not even using up an InMail that you might not have access to. So there is a lot that you can be doing to get yourself closer to these people than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah. And I I would never apply for a job without trying to talk to someone at the company.
Yeah.
I just know that that's, and I'll tell you, we talked about a company I work for, their recruiting process was like 48 steps, right? 48. But step 17 was post the job, right? So there's 16 things happening before the job is ever gets seen by external people. And one of those 16 things is contact the silver medal candidates from the last time we posted this position and see if any of them are available, right? So you want to be operating in that step 1 through 16 space. And to do that, you got to talk to people, right? How many jobs are not posted yet, or that were the budget was held in 2024, and as a manager, I'm just waiting to post this position. I'm waiting to get approval, and in the meantime, I'm networking with people. I'm talking to people and getting a short list so I can fill that fast. So you got to put some things in your job search strategy that involve talking to people.
Love it. Love that so very much. Wendy just gave us a comment. I'm going to read that, and then we're going to move back to the presentation and continue to move through there. Wendy asked about optimizing your LinkedIn profile, and should it be optimized to your CV or a distinct resume? I will say this, Wendy, a LinkedIn profile is not your resume. No matter what people say, it's not your resume. Your resume is something that it should be aligned specifically to that next job. And the other thing is, you're not like posting your resume everywhere. Your LinkedIn profile is totally visible. It's public. Everyone and anyone can see it. And so I do not believe that it should be a copy and paste of your resume. It should, though. It should be aligned to what it is that you want to attract in your life. And if you are in job search mode and you want to attract a very particular job, absolutely make yourself look like the most perfect candidate for it. But at the same time, don't make it a complete copy and paste, because if a recruiter finds your profile, make them want to request your resume. Don't give everything away, but make them want to request that resume and let them keep learning more about you. So that's my feeling. Yes, it needs to be optimized. Yes, it should be optimized towards what you want to attract, but don't think of it as just a resume. It really is a digital introduction. It's that first impression. It should show the warmth of who you are, and it should give a warmer, deeper story than what your resume is doing. Eddie?
Yeah. And, LinkedIn is different than, we just got done talking about how, like, make your resume standard, no flowers, right? Your LinkedIn profile is different. There's a lot of sections on there that you can, like the backdrop, that you can be creative with. There's areas where you can add, like, I have an activity feature where I put my blog posts on there. There's like a ton of ways to feature yourself on that profile. I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, lots of corporate recruiters have LinkedIn Recruiter, which is an elevated version of, like, shopping on Amazon. You choose the criteria you want, geography, I'm looking for, these things, hit a button and people pop up, and then you can send them messages like, would you be interested in this job? So there is this searchability where you want some information on your LinkedIn profile, but it's a much better marketing tool than your resume is.
Yeah, agreed. We're going to take one more question, then we're going to go back to the presentation that you worked so hard on. A user just said, I use Glassdoor and Indeed, and basically he's using these job aggregators, and he's finding that he's getting screened out pretty quickly. What's our take on applying through them? I think that's a really good question. If you find the job on LinkedIn, do you apply there and then go to the website and apply, or do you just ignore the LinkedIn and go straight to the website and apply? Like if you find it on Glassdoor, sometimes they do cloak the name of the company, but at the same time, like what would you do, Eddie? What's the best way of getting your resume onto that recruiter's desk?
Yeah, I think if you have the company name, it's pretty good to go to the company site, because that puts you in the most viewable spot of the ATS requisition. Like so LinkedIn, if I have a LinkedIn recruiter account, I can pay to post positions on LinkedIn, and have the easy apply button, right? And many times I've worked for a couple of companies recently that were posting positions, and it creates two positions. So I have the easy apply LinkedIn, accountant role, and LinkedIn has gone, and other aggregators has gone to my company website, scraped the position, and posted the exact same position. So now there's two of the same position. One has an easy apply button, one doesn't. It may look like there's two positions at the company, they're the same one. But most often, if you click, you're going to end up in the company's ATS. But if you want to be sure, just go to the company website.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I've heard it also, do it on LinkedIn, then go straight to the company website and put it in there. I don't think you're not going to get dinged because there's a duplication there, within their ATS. I think it'll eventually get merged anyway.
And if you go to a company website, you have to create a profile, but those profiles are searchable, right? So there might be, as a recruiter, I might be searching the database looking for people. I don't have a posting yet. I'm just getting a short list of positions that I think are coming my way, or so it's not a bad idea to have a profile with an updated resume at the companies that you would love to work for.
And I don't feel like that's really talked about enough, Eddie, that you should know all the companies that you're targeting, right? And you should be totally aware of what you've uploaded, because let's say you're one of those people, you like really customized your resume for this very specific role and you didn't get it. Well, now you are almost pigeonholed in that database for that role. So maybe it's something that you want to keep going back to, and maybe open yourself up a little bit more, or really showcase who you are. So, if they do go back and look at prior applicants, they might see a much fuller version of you.
Yeah, and it's even more valuable with the bots and stuff that I've talked about. So the bot is looking through the database, the applicant tracking system, for past people that have applied that may fit this position. And as you say, if I've done customized resumes, which I recommend, by the way, get the junk off your resume that the recruiter doesn't have to see, and get the stuff that you want them to see. But if that resume has been sitting in there for 3 years, and this is a company that you love and want to work for, and I'm searching on criteria that doesn't necessarily represent who you are today, you might want to just go and update your profile every now and then.
Can we go back to that? Remember when we spoke the other day, Eddie, you had shown how on the LinkedIn post, the area to really concentrate on. Do we have that in this presentation?
I don't think so. Nah.
I will say this: there is a minimum requirement section of the job post, and this says exactly what their expectations are. Like,
yes,
that's what to focus on, guys. That's what you want to be looking at.
Yeah, and if you look, most job descriptions are kind of standard. Like, there's some kind of summary right on top. Then there's something that lists the responsibilities. And there's, companies are doing it different ways. They're trying to be fancy and say, if you work in this position, you will have these qualifications. But you have summary, responsibilities, qualifications. Qualifications are typically at the bottom. And that's, to your point, you can look through those bullets and see hard skills, soft skills. The hard skills are the ones that are yes or no questions. Do you have this many years of experience? Soft skills are like, knows how to use Microsoft products, or great communication skills. Those are the soft skills are ones that you have to tell a story about. Like, I have this experience that shows that I have great communication skills. But to your point, Donna, you go through the qualification section. That's exactly what recruiters are screening people on. You know, if you don't have that stuff, if you don't have the stuff in the qualifications that are must have, then you're screened out.
What was the post you had? I'm looking at your website right now. What was the post, the blog post that you had mentioned?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. Although I'm semi-afraid to click on.
Don't worry. Here, what I'll do is this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to put this here. Hopefully that. Oh, that might not post to your channel.
I'll get it for you before.
Yeah, it's ESTalentsolutions.com, and Jeffrey, we'll follow back up after the presentation with the direct link. We've got like 15 minutes left for this hour presentation. I will say for those who have stuck around this far, if you visit my website, linkedin-makeover.com, that's LinkedIn- makeover.com. You go to free resources and you click on the personal branding assessment. Take that assessment. The score is free. There is a report that I do sell that offers so much more information. It's an absolute book based upon the way you answered the questions. If you email me at donna@linkedin-makeover.com and you mention that you're here and you saw this, I will give you your report for free. I will email it to you. You do not need to place an order. Just email me, and I will do that for the next 3 days. All right. So today's the 3/14, 2025. I will do it until on Monday. I'll stop. So it's there for you. Please email me and I will get you that full report for free. Let's keep going. Let's keep looking at this presentation of yours.
Yeah. Okay. And then thanks for posting the website. There's a section that has blog posts, and you might have to go to page 3 or 4 or 5 of the blog post section, because I know I wrote that a while ago, but you'll see it says something about AI and the job search. So back to the presentation here, we left off where the recruiter has looked at the resume. He's screening through these people. And what happens now, as they move people around, you see on the right-hand side here, there's people that end up in different parts of the process. So once you get in the new submissions bucket, everyone kind of lands in that bucket. Now the recruiter is looking at resumes, screening, and for the TA review, this is the recruiter review. I've looked at it and don't know what to do with it yet, so it's in the review bucket. I've looked at it. You look great. I want to talk to you. So I send out a note. Let's schedule some time, and so on, and so forth. Moving through these processes, there are automations. Every time someone's moved into a new bucket, there could be an automation set up to do something. Like if you're moved to the disposition bucket, then I can have an automatic email. Everyone's got them, right? Thank you for applying for our company. At this time, we're looking at other candidates. That can be automated template that goes out if you're moved into that bucket. If I moved into the pre-screen requested, it could be a automatically self-scheduling interview where you actually get a view, the candidate gets a view of my calendar and picks a time. So there's a lot of things built in here that streamline the process, but it is important then to move people through the right buckets and the right steps for those things to happen. Then in the next section, you'll see it says hiring manager review. At some point, the recruiter submits to the hiring manager. When I move to this bucket, it automatically sends an email with the the candidates' resumes to the hiring manager, says these people are a good fit, please review. The manager then can say, yes, I want to interview those people.
Yeah.
And then
Here's my thought. Here's a question that I have. Timing, timing of all of this. So we want to make sure that our resume, our application catches the recruiter's eye and makes it through these steps, right? So we want to make sure that, you know, the resume is great. We've answered, well, I guess first that we answered the qualifying questions in the right way, that our resume is fabulous, and that, you know, when the recruiter sees it, you know, he or she is moving it through this process. Is there a timing aspect to it? Like, if I'm really quick to apply, is that better as opposed to someone who's waited a few weeks to apply? Like, does timing play a part in any of this?
Yeah, it does, and that can be frustrating for candidates, because I mentioned earlier, I don't want to flood the hiring manager with so many choices that they don't make any choice.
Yeah.
So if a position's posted, and a bunch of people apply, and as a recruiter, I'm looking at it then, because the other part of the timing is, when does a recruiter take a first look at the candidates?
Yeah.
But in general terms, it's good to be the early ones to apply. And you can set up with a lot of companies, you can set up like alert me when this type of position. I mean, you can do that on LinkedIn, right? Alert me when these types of positions are posted, so that you can try to stay up on the timing. But if you've, you know, if the position's been posted for a month and I have people all through the process, I'm screening people, there's people interviewing, you may just be on hold. You may just be in that holding pattern, new submissions bucket, until we find a really a need to go there and look for more people.
That's something worthwhile to really think about, right? I mean, you could hit everything, you could tick every mark, but if the first group that they grab, they found someone perfect, it doesn't matter how well you fit, you were just a little too late to the party.
Yeah, and there's, you know, applications are getting more and more people applying. The requisitions are getting more and more people apply, because you can use AI and hit a button and send out 1,000, you know, applications, and that's just, it's making the problem worse right now. I believe that this is all going to get corrected with AI, but right now it's a weird time. I do want to address this.
This is a great question. I'm really curious about the answer.
If you go, so the question is, I applied to a company, have 2 different CVs, 2 different jobs, which I recommend, right? Customize your CV to the right job. Will the company see both of them? And more specifically, what happens to the old CV? So when you create your profile at a company, you can save multiple CVs. So you can have one, and it's not a bad thing. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm trying to sell them on this job, so I'm going to create a different CV. What you're doing, or what you should be doing, is highlighting those specific skills that are a fit for the role you're applying to. You're not trying to sell anything. You're just trying to have them zero in on just the right stuff. So you can go in and save multiple CVs. Typically, if a recruiter is searching through the database and your name pops up, I can see every position that you applied for, but the CV you submit to that job is requisition specific. So you can save general resumes in your file, right? That's separate than when you apply for this specific job, whatever resume you submitted to it. So in that view, a recruiter can see both of your CVs, but unless there's some kind of reason to go through and look at every position you applied to and what resume you submitted for that specific position, as a recruiter, I would never do that. I would just look at your general profile, look at your general whatever CV you have posted to that profile, and then, you know, if I want to talk to you, ask you for an updated one.
Can you add a resume to your account, just so they have one that's a little bit more broad versus the one that you really optimized?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm talking in generalities, like most applicant tracking systems kind of work in the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you create a profile, that's kind of you. This is you, the person that is interested in ABC company. And then each time that you apply for specific positions, you can put a whole new resume. You don't have to use the one that you've posted to your profile. So yeah. You can keep your profile up to date. You can change the resume in there. You can add multiple ones. If this is my marketing, technology resume, and this is my marketing advertising resume, or whatever it may be, you can keep those in there. But typically, and this goes back to like how if you deal with the government, you have to track in certain ways. Requisition specific resume. We need to know the resume that you have at this moment that you applied for this particular position. That's important. So that's why there's a lot of specific data captured, because that's how big the companies report back to the government that they're using fair practices to hire people.
Eddie, thank you so much for all of this information that you've shared with us today.
The time went so fast.
We have a few minutes. Is there anything else that you want people to know about the process, or even about you and your company and what you're doing to help companies?
Yeah, well, so for job seekers, I tell you, my company tries to fix all of the, bad candidate experience stuff that you're dealing with. And from, hiring managers asking the wrong questions and screening out good people, to the process being, inefficient. And you haven't heard from a company in 3-4 months, and you think that they're ignoring you, and sometimes it's the company, they can't figure it out. So ES Talent Solutions spends a lot of time getting that process right, automating the ATS and these features, so that recruiters can spend more time talking to candidates and less time doing administrative work. And my big piece of advice, and which I've said earlier in the conversation, is find people to talk to. You don't have the choice to manipulate a company into doing the recruiting how you want. You have to do it how they want. So get in front of people. People still, employees still pass resumes to their managers in other departments, and put in good words for people. And
let me say something really, really quick. Don't think you're bothering anyone when you ask them to do that. If you are hired and that employee was the one that passed the resume in, they're going to get a finder's fee. They're going to get a nice little check because they brought someone into their company that was hired. So recognize you're helping them, you're helping their family. I mean, you might be supporting a night out for them, and they welcome that. They want that.
Some of them are high fee. I mean, I've worked for companies where you're talking about thousands of dollars, $1,000, $2,000 for hard to fill positions, more than that. So yeah, in fact, some people before they apply may look for a networking contact and say, I don't know you, but I gladly use your name as a referral. If you can give me 10 minutes to ask a few questions about the company. Yeah. So definitely good advice.
All right. With that said, anyone who's stuck on, my offer is still good until Monday. Visit linkedin-makeover.com. Go to the free resources. There's tons of free resources there, but the one free resource, it gives you a score. But if you want the full report as to how you're doing in your career branding, if you take that assessment, you take it all the way straight to the score. It's going to then try to upsell you. Don't do the upsell. Just email me, Donna@linkedin-makeover.com, and I will get you a copy of that report. Thank you so much. And we're going to end this presentation. If anyone wants to continue to chat in the comments, we'll be there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.